The hospital ship drifted quietly through the dark silence of space. It was a giant vessel, long and white, marked with red crosses on every side so even the coldest heart could see its purpose. Inside were doctors, nurses, and volunteers working day and night to heal soldiers and civilians who had been pulled from brutal battles. There were no guns, no shields meant for war, no fighters hiding in its hangar. It carried only the wounded, the broken, and the helpless. Its corridors echoed with the soft beeping of monitors, the whispers of prayers, and the occasional cry of pain. Children too young to fight lay in small wards, some bandaged, some recovering slowly. Nurses moved with calm steps, adjusting medicines. Speaking gently, old veterans sat in silence, staring at the stars outside, thankful they had survived long enough to see peace again. For a moment, it felt as though the horrors of war could not touch this place. The crew believed that even in a galaxy burning with conflict, some rules were sacred. A hospital ship was untouchable. It was the way it had always been, but not. Everyone respected that law. Far beyond the ship's sensors, hidden like predators in the dark, alien warships watched. They belonged to a species that saw mercy as weakness. Their commander's orders were simple. Strike the human hospital ship, send a message of fear, break their spirits. Cloaked in technology that bent light and hid heat signatures, the alien ships crept closer, like wolves circling a herd. Inside their bridges, alien officers hissed in excitement, imagining the panic, the helplessness, the screams. They would enjoy this. On the hospital ship, Dr. Mara Imani stood by the viewing port, staring into the stars. She had worked 30 hours without rest, yet her eyes stayed sharp. Something gnawed at her, silence that was too deep, a void too heavy. She whispered to herself, "It feels wrong tonight." She did not know why. A nurse approached her, with a datapad showing patient records, but Mara's eyes stayed fixed on the emptiness outside. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then, without warning, the void ripped open. The cloaks dropped, and alien warships appeared in the black. Their hulls glowed faint red like beasts waking from sleep. The crew of the hospital. Ship froze in horror. There was no mistaking them. Warships armed with weapons capable of tearing apart entire fleets. The bridge of the hospital ship erupted in alarm. Sirens screamed. Red lights flashed across every deck. Doctors and nurses looked at each other in disbelief. The ship had no weapons, no shields strong enough to survive a barrage. It was a sanctuary, not a fortress. Children began to cry. Injured soldiers tried to rise from their beds, demanding to fight, but there was nothing to fight with. The captain of the hospital ship, an older man named Elias, grabbed the comm system. His voice shook but carried across every corridor. "This is the hospital ship, Mercy Dawn. We are unarmed. We are marked under the laws of war. Do not fire. I repeat, we are a medical ship. We are no threat." The alien commander received the transmission. He sneered, his alien fangs showing. "Perfect," he said to his crew. "They are helpless. Fire at will." The first blast came like lightning. A burning spear of energy slammed into the side of the hospital ship. The walls shook violently. Patients screamed as lights flickered. Sections of the hull melted instantly. A nursery bay lost atmosphere, and nurses fought desperately to seal the breach. People clawed at airlocks, trying to save lives, pulling children into sealed rooms. Panic consumed the ship. Dr. Mara was thrown to the ground by the impact, her body slamming against the steel floor. She pulled herself up, heart racing. She saw fire tearing down one corridor. Her medical staff shouted for stretchers, but their patients were already patients wounded before wounded again. She whispered a single word under her breath, trembling with anger. "Monsters." The captain shouted again into the comms, his voice desperate. "We are unarmed. Stop firing." "You are breaking every law of the stars," but the aliens did not care. Another volley ripped through the decks. Metal screamed as pressure doors sealed to stop decompression. Dozens were gone, in seconds. The aliens fired not to destroy quickly, but to wound, to make the humans suffer, to send their message of cruelty. The hospital ship began to tilt, systems failing. Inside the communications bay, a young officer slammed his hand on the controls. "Send the SOS now." His fingers flew across the console, broadcasting a desperate cry into the stars. A simple, burning message. "This is Mercy Dawn. We are under attack. Civilians on board, children on board. We are dying. Anyone who hears this, help us." The signal shot into the void, racing faster than light, bouncing from relay to relay, screaming across the stars. But in the moment, the crew feared it was too late. On the alien flagship, the commander leaned back, watching the human ship burn. "No one will come for you," he hissed. "Not fast enough." His officers laughed, their voices like knives scraping stone. On the Mercy Dawn, chaos raged. Dr. Mara and her team pulled survivors from fire, wrapped bleeding wounds, carried stretchers down smoke-filled corridors. The air grew thin, the lights dimmer. Every second the ship died a little more, yet even in the terror, they refused to give up. A nurse carried 2 children, shielding them with her own body as debris. Rained from the ceiling. Soldiers, though broken and weak, tried to shield doctors, crawling across floors to block flames with what remained of their armor. The sound of explosions echoed through the halls. Shaking hearts, and then, in the middle of all that death, the stars outside shifted. At first no one understood. The alien commander frowned as sensors began to blare warnings. The space around the hospital ship twisted strangely, like water rippling. The stars themselves bent, as if something enormous was pressing against the fabric of the universe. The crew of the Mercy Dawn looked out from shattered windows, eyes wide with desperate hope. Was it hallucination? Was it the end? Communications? Officer whispered, almost crying, "Something is coming." The alien commander rose from his throne, claws tightening. He barked at his officers, "Identify that disturbance." But their scanners, so proud and advanced, returned only static. No origin, no speed, no explanation. Only one truth, something massive was arriving, and it was arriving now. Dr. Mara clutched the hand of a child beside her. Her face smeared with ash, lifted to the stars. In her heart, she prayed it was not death, but salvation. The bending grew worse, as if space itself tore apart. And then, the flash like thunder frozen in light, a shadow larger than anything they had ever seen, began to emerge. Space itself bends open, and something massive arrives in the darkness. The alien commander stood tall on his bridge, watching the human hospital ship burn. His eyes glowed with cruel satisfaction. Round him his officers hissed and clicked their mandibles in celebration. For them this was not war, it was sport. A helpless target, a vessel marked for mercy, destroyed to spread fear. The commander spoke with pride, his voice echoing across the command deck. "Let the humans see this. Let them know their cries mean nothing. By the time their fleets arrive, all that will remain is dust." His words carried arrogance, certainty. But even as he spoke, the disturbance outside grew stronger. The void shook. The stars rippled like waves in water. A low hum, like the growl of a beast, trembled through every hull plate. Sensors flashed. Warnings. The crew looked at one another in confusion. Nothing in their charts explained this. Then it happened. With a crack like thunder, space split open and fire poured from the wound. Out of the tear came shapes dark, angular, sharp as blades, human ships. Not one, not two, but dozens of them, ripping into reality as if the galaxy itself could not hold them back. The Mercy Dawn crew froze in shock. From their shattered windows, survivors saw the impossible. One moment they were alone, dying. The next, Earth's fleet was there, appearing almost faster than thought. Children gasped. Nurses wept. Soldiers, broken and bleeding, sat up on their beds and whispered a single word: home. Dr. Mara's eyes filled with tears as she held on to the child beside her. For the first time since the attack began, she felt something rise inside her hope. On the alien bridge, panic cracked through the crew. How did they arrive so fast? One officer hissed, "This is impossible!" Another screamed. "No, not impossible," the commander growled, though his voice trembled. "It is human." The largest of the human warships moved forward, dwarfing all the others. Its black hull gleamed with the light of distant suns, weapons glowing like eyes of fury. The fleet spread out in perfect formation, surrounding the Mercy. Dawn like a wall of steel, it was not chance. It was not hesitation. It was vengeance. On the lead ship, the human admiral stood on his bridge. Admiral Kane was a man forged by war, his face scarred by battles long past. His eyes were cold, sharp, filled with the fury of every soldier who had ever seen the helpless attacked. He looked at the hospital ship, burning and broken, and his jaw tightened. He gave a single order: "Open all channels." His voice, calm but laced with iron, cut through the void, reaching every alien ship. It carried across the stars into CO, their bridges into their hearts. "This is Admiral Kane of the Terran fleet. You fired on a hospital ship. You murdered civilians. You murdered children. You broke every law of war, every line of mercy. For that crime, you will not be forgiven. You will not escape. You will not survive. You will pay in fire." The alien commander bared his fangs. "You dare threaten me? You think we will fear you? Your fleet is nothing before ours. Arm weapons. Show them the power of the, But before he could finish, Admiral Kane spoke again. Sharper, colder, cutting through him like a blade. "You have 30 seconds. Power down your weapons. Surrender now, or we erase you from this star." Silence followed. The humans did not shout. They did not boast. They spoke with certainty, with finality, as though the sentence had already been written. The alien commander snarled, rage flooding him. "Humans are weak," he roared. "They hide behind their laws. They hide behind their mercy. They will not strike first." But even as he said the words, his officers trembled. The human fleet loomed before them, silent, waiting. The void seemed to hold its breath. On the Mercy dawn, survivors listened to the Admiral's voice echo through their combs. Hope burned brighter in their eyes. Nurses held children closer, whispering, "Listen, the fleet is here. We are not alone." 30 seconds passed. The alien commander sneered. "They are bluffing. Fire." His ships powered their weapons. Energy flared across their hulls. The void lit with the glow of cannons preparing to strike. The humans did not move. They waited, precise, cold, like executioners, and then Admiral Kane gave the signal. Fire. The human fleet moved as one. Railguns thundered, firing slugs at near light speed. The first round tore straight through the alien cruiser's shields, ripping its hull in half. Bilbasma batteries unleashed storms of white fire. Missile pods opened, releasing swarms of smart warheads that streaked across the battlefield like falling stars. The aliens never expected it. They thought humans would hesitate. They thought humans would show mercy. Instead, fury answered them. On the alien bridge, chaos erupted. Officers screamed, clawing at controls, shields failing. Hull breached. "We cannot." Another human shot slammed into their side, tearing away whole decks. The commander gripped his chair, his arrogance shattered. For the first time, he felt something burn through his chest fear. The Mercy Dawn shook again, but this time from the shockwave of enemy ships exploding around it. Survivors looked out and saw alien cruisers ripped apart like toys, their burning pieces scattering into the stars. Dr. Mara whispered. "They came. They really came." She clutched the child tighter, her tears mixing with smoke. The battle raged. Human ships moved with precision, every strike deliberate. Alien fire hit their shields, but the Terran fleet absorbed it, returning double with each attack. For every human ship damaged, 3 alien vessels burned. Admiral Kane stood still, his eyes never leaving the alien flagship. He knew this was only the beginning. This was not just a battle, it was a message. A warning written in fire. On the alien bridge, the commander staggered, sparks raining from broken consoles. His fleet was dying around him, torn apart by a force he had mocked only minutes before. He slammed his clawed fist against the console. Call for reinforcements. Send word to the Empire. Humans cannot fight us alone. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He had made a mistake. He had touched something sacred. He had attacked the untouchable. And now he would pay. The human fleet closed in, surrounding what remained of his ships. Their formation tightened. Their weapons glowed brighter. Admiral Kane raised his hand. Prepare main batteries. The void itself seemed to shiver as the largest Terran ship, the dreadnought Iron Will, powered its rail cannons. The barrels glowed red-hot, charging for a strike that could split the alien flagship in two. The alien commander's voice cracked for the first time. No, this cannot be. Humans are not supposed to be this strong. On the Mercy Dawn. Children pressed their faces to the glass, watching the human fleet burn the sky in their defense. For them, this was not just rescue, it was vengeance. The universe would remember this night, and then. The Admiral spoke one last time, his voice colder than ice. You brought fire to the helpless. Now fire answers you. The Iron Will's cannons unleash their fury. The alien flagship takes the full brunt of Earth's dreadnought strike, and space explodes with light. What survives, if anything, remains to be seen. The stars burned bright with the fire of battle. Alien wreckage drifted across the void, glowing red from explosions. Human railgun slugs had ripped through shields like they were paper. Missiles still streaked through the black, hunting the last survivors. Yet the fight was far from over. Alien flagship still lived. Its hull smoked and cracked, but its reactor still pulsed with energy. Inside, the alien commander stood trembling with rage and disbelief. Round him, broken officers shouted, trying to repair shields, trying to stabilize their falling empire. Their eyes no longer carried arrogance, they carried fear. How? How can they strike so fast? How can they appear in seconds? The commander growled. His claws dug into the metal of his command chair. They are not supposed to move like this. Their fleets are not supposed to bend space itself. On the other side of the battlefield, Admiral Kane stood tall on the bridge of the Iron Will. His uniform was dark, crisp but smeared at the sleeve with blood from a cut he had ignored. His scarred face was lit by the glow of burning alien ships. On his display, but his eyes did not show satisfaction. They showed fury. Cold, controlled fury. He turned to his officers. Status of the Mercy Dawn. Critical damage, Admiral, the officer replied. Hull breaches on 5 decks. Life support failing in sections. Hundreds dead, but survivors remain. Their signal still transmits. Kane nodded slowly, his jaw hard. Good. Keep them alive. They are why we're here. The alien flagship moved again, charging weapons. Its super cannons glowed bright. One blast could cripple even a dreadnought. The humans knew it. The aliens knew it. Every soul in that sector held their breath. Admiral Kane's voice dropped to a deadly calm. All ships, lock on target. Do not fire yet. The Terran fleet shifted in silence. Cruisers angled their hulls, destroyers flanked wide, carriers launched wings of drones. It was not chaos. It was not panic. It was precision, like a blade sharpening before the strike. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara Imani held a child close against her chest. She could feel the girl's small heart racing, hear the whispers of nurses around her. The entire ship had grown silent now, except for the hum of failing systems. Survivors pressed against shattered windows, staring at the fleet outside. Some whispered prayers, some simply cried. Others just watched, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and awe. Then the Admiral's voice came across the comms, reaching even the wounded aboard the hospital ship. To all Terran vessels, our mission is clear. Protect the Mercy Dawn. Show no mercy to those who slaughter the helpless. This is not a negotiation. This is judgment. The survivors erupted in gasps. His voice was calm, but to them, it was like hearing a god speak across the stars. The alien commander snarled when the human voice reached his bridge. Arrogant creatures, they dare judge us? He slammed his claws down. Target the hospital ship. If they love their weak so much, let them watch it burn. Gasps spread through his own crew. Even they felt hesitation. Attacking a hospital. Ship had been one thing, but to finish it while the Terran fleet stood ready, it was madness. But the commander cared nothing for hesitation. His pride was broken, and he demanded blood. Weapons locked onto the Mercy Dawn. On the Iron Will, alarms rang. The sensors screamed warnings. The alien flagship had targeted the hospital ship. Admiral Kane's eyes narrowed. His officers shouted, "They're going to finish the Mercy Dawn, Admiral." For one brief second, silence held. Then Kane spoke. His voice low, unshaken. "All batteries. Fire." The void erupted. Human railguns fired in unison, streaking across space like bolts of lightning. Plasma cannons glowed white-hot, carving fire into the dark. Missiles screamed out of silos, trailing contrails of light. Drone wings dove forward, unleashing swarms of microbombs. The alien flagship returned fire, its supercannons unleashed. Beams of energy so bright they blinded sensors. One blast skimmed the edge of a Terran cruiser, tearing half of it away in molten debris. The humans did not break formation. Another blast ripped through a destroyer, splitting it in half. Still, they pressed forward, step by step, closer and closer. On the Mercy Dawn, the survivors felt the ship tremble again as shockwaves rolled through space. But this time, they were not screams of despair. They were cries of hope. They saw alien vessels bursting apart under the fury of human weapons. They saw Earth's fleet closing around them like a shield. Dr. Mara whispered, "They will not let us die. Not today." The alien commander roared in rage as more of his ships exploded around him. "Cowards, fight them, crush them."
Out his
Officers shook, claws fumbling on controls. Some no longer obeyed. Some looked at their admiral with eyes filled not with loyalty, but with terror. Admiral Kane raised his hand. "Target the flagship. Prepare rail batteries for coordinated strike." The Iron Will's cannons glowed brighter, their power cores trembling with energy. The surrounding human ships aligned perfectly, each locking. Onto the same target, the alien commander's eyes widened. He realized too late this was no fleet. This was an execution squad. The admiral's voice thundered across the comms for the Mercy Dawn, and the fleet fired. A storm of metal and plasma crashed into the alien flagship. Railgun slugs ripped through armor. Its missiles tore open its belly. Its plasma cannons burned its decks to molten glass. The mighty flagship, once a terror of the stars, screamed as its hull shattered. On the alien bridge, the commander was thrown to the floor. Sparks and fire rained around him. His crew screamed in panic. His last thought, before the deck exploded, was bitter realization. They had underestimated humanity. The flagship burst apart, a blinding explosion tearing through the void. Fragments scattered, burning like meteors. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors cried out in relief. Children clapped weakly. Nurses hugged one another. Soldiers raised trembling fists. The admiral had kept his word. The hospital ship lived, but Admiral Kane did not smile. He turned to his officers, voice flat. "Scan the system." The officer's face paled. "Admiral, we have more contacts. Many more. Reinforcements inbound. Entire fleets dropping out of warp." The display filled with red icons. Dozens. Hundreds. Alien reinforcements pouring in from every side. Faster than the humans had expected, the enemy was not finished. This was only the beginning. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara looked out the broken windows and saw the new ships arriving. Her heart sank again. No, not more. The admiral stared at the red swarm on the display, clenched his fists, eyes cold as steel. "So they've chosen to throw everything at us." He leaned forward, his voice steady, unshaken. "Then we will show them everything humanity has." Alien reinforcements flood the system, outnumbering Earth's fleet many times over. Admiral Kane prepares for the true battle to begin. The silence. After the blast of the Iron Will's railguns hung heavy in space, alien wreckage floated, burning like dying stars. But the void was not calm. Everyone on the Mercy Dawn knew the fight was not finished. The ship groaned, torn open in places, but still alive. The wounded survivors pressed against the windows, staring out at the impossible sight before them. Mirth's fleet, standing guard. The alien flagship had taken the full force of the Terran strike, yet it still hung in the void. Its hull was torn, molten cracks glowing like open wounds, but its reactor pulsed with violent energy. It refused to die. Inside, the alien commander clawed his way to his feet, covered in ash and blood. The one-sprout figure now looked broken, but his voice still burned with fury. "They came too fast," he hissed, staring at the tactical display. "Faster than our sensors could track, faster than light itself should allow. How did they arrive in seconds?" No one on his bridge dared answer. Officers worked frantically at smoking consoles, shouting damage reports, calling for reinforcements. Fear filled their voices. The commander slammed his claws against the railing. "I do not care how. They will not leave this system alive. If humans think fury alone will save them, they are wrong. Power the cannons. Target the hospital ship again." A gasp spread through the crew. Even his own soldiers hesitated. To strike at a helpless medical ship once had been arrogance, but to do it again, with the Terran fleet watching, that was suicide. Yet the commander's pride was wounded beyond repair. He wanted blood, even if it meant his own destruction. Meanwhile, aboard the Iron Will, Admiral Kane stood like stone. The bridge lights flickered across his scarred face, but his eyes never left the view of the burning alien flagship. His officers read out reports: enemy ships crippled, Terran ships holding formation, the Mercy Dawn barely surviving. "Admiral," said Commander Holt, his second in command, "the hospital ship is badly damaged. Hundreds lost, but survivors remain. They are depending on us." Kane's jaw tightened. His voice was steady, iron hard. "Then we hold. The Mercy Dawn will not fall while I breathe." The sensors screamed suddenly. Alien cannons powered up again, this time aimed directly at the Mercy Dawn. The Admiral's officers shouted warnings. "They're targeting the hospital ship. They mean to finish what they started." For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The survivors on the Mercy Dawn screamed, doctors dragging children deeper into sealed corridors. Nurses clutched each other in fear. Dr. Mara Yamani looked up at the stars, her arms tight around the small girl she had sworn to protect. She whispered, "Not again. Please, not again." On the Iron Will, Admiral Kane spoke 3 words: calm and final. All batteries fire. The void exploded. Human railguns thundered again, their slugs tearing across the dark like lightning bolts. Plasma cannons unleashed burning rivers of white light. Missiles streaked like falling stars, filling the sky with trails of fire. Drone wings swarmed out from carriers, darting between alien ships, planting charges on their hulls before detonating. The alien flagship roared back, unleashing beams of searing energy. One caught a Terran destroyer mid-hull, ripping it in half. The explosion rocked nearby cruisers. Another beam grazed a human battleship, tearing into its armor and scattering fire across its decks. But the Terran fleet did not break. They pressed forward, moving with precision, as if one mind controlled them all. For every ship they lost, they destroyed 3. For every blast they absorbed, they answered with double fury. The Mercy Dawn shook again, as shock waves rippled through space. But the survivors could see the difference. This was not helpless chaos anymore. This was power. This was fury controlled by discipline. They watched alien cruisers split apart under railgun fire, watched massive carriers burn under missile storms. Hope spread across their faces. They're winning. One wounded soldier whispered, "By God, they're winning." Dr. Mara clutched the little girl tighter, tears running down her face. "Do you see? Earth came for us. They came." Inside, the alien flagship panic ruled. Officers screamed at their failing controls. Sparks and fire rained down as the human storm pounded them mercilessly. "Our shields are gone. Hull breaches on 6 decks. Cannot hold," the commander roared, shoving his officers aside. "We will hold. We are the Empire. We do not fall to humans." But even he could feel it. The end was closing in. The humans were not just defending. They were judging on the iron will. Admiral Kane raised his hand. Concentrate fire. Break their flagship. Every Terran gun locked onto the same target. Rail batteries glowed red-hot. Plasma cores howled with energy. The alien commander stared in disbelief as his sensors filled with death. Then the Admiral spoke. His voice carried across every ship for the Mercy Dawn. The Terran fleet unleashed everything. The alien flagship vanished in a storm of fire. Rail slugs punched holes straight through its core. Missiles burrowed into its belly and ripped outward in glowing chains of explosions. Plasma fire washed over it, melting its hull into nothing but fragments. For a moment, the void shone brighter than any sun. Then darkness returned, filled with debris. The alien flagship was no more. Cheers erupted on the Mercy Dawn. Survivors screamed in joy, hugged, wept. Soldiers, though half dead, raised their fists. Children clapped, their voices echoing down the corridors. Nurses collapsed into each other's arms. The Admiral had kept his promise. They had lived, but on the iron will, Admiral Kane did not celebrate. He stood silent, eyes narrowing at the tactical display. Something gnawed at him. This battle had been too quick, too brutal. The aliens would not let it end here. Scan the system, he ordered. His officer's face went pale. Admiral, I'm reading new signatures. Many signatures.
How many?
Kane asked, though he already feared the answer. The officer swallowed hard. Hundreds. Entire fleets. Dropping out of warp on all vectors. The display filled with red. Dozens upon dozens of alien fleets appeared, each larger than the last, surrounding the Terran formation. The void itself seemed to turn hostile, brimming with enemy firepower. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara saw the new fleets emerging from WARP. Her blood ran cold. No, not more. Please, not more. Children who had just begun to smile froze in silence. Nurses stared in disbelief. Even the wounded soldiers who had whispered hope now closed their eyes in dread. Admiral Kane stared at the swarm of red on his display. His face did not change, his voice still calm. So, they mean to throw everything at us. He leaned forward, hands tightening into fists. His eyes burned with steel. Then we will show them everything. Humanity has alien reinforcements pour into the system, surrounding Earth's fleet on every side. The real battle is only beginning. The void was no longer quiet. It roared with the presence of hundreds of alien ships pouring out of warp like a tide of fire. Their hulls glowed with energy, their weapons already charging. They surrounded the Terran fleet like a closing fist, outnumbering them many times over. On the bridge of the Iron Will, Admiral Kane stood silent, watching the tactical display as red icons filled the screen. His officers whispered in disbelief. So many. Too many, one muttered. Another added, We are outnumbered at least 10-1, Admiral. Kane's scarred face did not change. His voice cut through the panic like steel. Numbers are not everything. Discipline wins battles, and fury wins wars. His words steadied the bridge.
Ah!
Every officer straightened. Every crew member locked their eyes on him. He was not shouting, not promising impossible things. He was reminding them of who they were. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors pressed against broken glass, watching the nightmare unfold. The alien reinforcements filled the sky with their vast size, blotting out the stars. The nurses cried, children screamed, soldiers clenched their fists. Dr. Mara held on to the little girl, her own hand shaking. We can't survive this, one soldier whispered bitterly. There are too many. But Dr. Mara shook her head, her voice steady, though her heart pounded. We survived the first attack. And Earth's fleet came for us. They will not leave us now. They will fight. The alien commander of the new reinforcements stood tall on his flagship bridge. He was larger, older, more cunning than the one who had fallen. His voice was cold and cruel as he addressed his armada. These humans dare challenge us for one hospital ship. They believe their rage can stand against an empire. Today, we crush that arrogance. Today we burn their fleet to ashes. His armada. roared in answer, cannons glowing bright. He pointed a claw at the Terran fleet. Erase them. The first volley lit up the void. Dozens of beams shot across space, streaking toward the humans. Explosions burst around them as energy slammed into Terran shields. A destroyer cracked open, its hull glowing red before breaking apart. Cruisers staggered, fire pouring from its engines. On the Iron Will, alarms screamed. Officers shouted, reports shields failing, hull breaches, casualties. But Admiral Kane stood calm, his eyes locked on the battlefield. Hold formation, he ordered. Do not scatter. Let them come to us. And they did. The alien fleets surged forward, confident in their numbers, flooding the void with fire. Then Kane raised his hand. His voice was ice. Return fire. The Terran fleet struck back. Railguns roared, unleashing slugs that tore holes through alien lines. Missiles screamed across the void, targeting clusters of enemy ships. Plasma cannons spat white fire that burned through shields, melting holes in seconds. One alien cruiser exploded in a blaze so bright it lit the broken hull of the Mercy Dawn. Another carrier lost control and spun wildly before colliding with one of its own escorts. The survivors aboard the hospital ship cheered weakly, their voices echoing through the broken corridors. For a moment, hope flickered again. But the alien numbers were too great. For every ship the humans destroyed, more poured in. For every alien vessel that burned, 5 more took its place. Slowly, the Terran fleet was being pushed back, forced into tighter formation. On the Iron Will, Commander Holt gritted his teeth. Admiral, we cannot win this by trading fire. They will grind us down. Kane's eyes narrowed. He had known this from the start. Humans could not match numbers. They never had. What they matched with was wheel in something else. Prepare the hidden batteries, Kane said softly. His officers froze. Admiral, those weapons, they were not meant for open war. Are meant for survival? Kane answered. And survival is what we fight for now. At his command, hatches opened on several Terran warships. From the dark emerged weapons, the galaxy had rarely seen experimental rail cannons. Magnetic slings the size of skyscrapers, capable of firing projectiles faster than anything the aliens could track. The barrels glowed red as they charged. The alien armada laughed at first, believing humans desperate. But then the first shot fired. A single slug tore through an alien battleship, entered one side and exited the other, splitting it neatly in half. Another fired, and 2 cruisers shattered instantly. The third shot ripped open a carrier's hangar, detonating its fighter wings inside. Panic spread through the alien fleets. Their shields were useless against this speed, this raw force. Formation broke as they tried to scatter. Now, Kane said, his voice sharp, hit them while they are blind. The Terran fleet surged forward. Fighters screamed out from carriers, darting between alien ships, unleashing swarms of bombs. Destroyers cut through the chaos, firing broadside after broadside. The void became a storm of fire and steel. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors clung to each other as they watched the impossible Earth's fleet pushing back an armada far larger than itself. Our children pressed their faces to the glass, whispering in awe, they're fighting for us. They're not afraid. But fear still lived in the hearts of the aliens. On their flagship, the alien admiral snarled in rage. These humans, their weapons should not exist. They should not fight like this. Officer whispered in terror. They are not fighting for conquest. They are fighting for vengeance. Alien admiral's claws shook as another wave of his ships exploded under the human storm. Then we will match their vengeance. Gasps filled the alien bridge. The doomsday weapon was forbidden, even among their own kind. A reactor cannon that drew power from the heart of a star. If unleashed, it would not simply destroy ships. It would annihilate everything in its path, including friend and foe. The admiral did not care. His pride demanded nothing less than total destruction. On the Iron Will, Admiral Kane's sensors picked up the surge instantly. His face hardened. He knew that kind of power signature. He had studied it years ago in secret. Files marked Never Engage. His officer whispered, Pale Admiral. They are charging something monstrous. Kane's voice dropped to a deadly calm. All ships, prepare for evasive maneuvers. This is no longer a battle, it is survival. The void shook. The alien flagship glowed as energy built in its core. Light spilling from its hull, the weapon charged, humming louder, brighter, enough to tear open the fabric of space itself. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara watched in horror. Her arms tightened around the little girl, her voice breaking. "What is that? What are they doing?" The Admiral's voice reached across the comms, calm but heavy. "They are preparing to erase us all." The survivors froze. Soldiers looked at each other with pale faces, and then the weapon fired. The alien flagship unleashes its forbidden doomsday weapon, a blast powerful enough to annihilate everything in its path. The Terran fleet has only moments to react. The void itself screamed. The alien flagship's weapon ignited. A beam of pure energy tearing across space like the heart of a dying star. It burned white and red, brighter than suns, ripping the darkness. Apart, its size dwarfed every other cannon, wide enough to consume fleets in a single breath. The Iron Will's alarms howled. On the bridge, Admiral Kane's crew froze in terror. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared at the screen, pale-faced, watching death itself roar toward them. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors screamed. The beam filled their windows so bright, they shielded their eyes. Dr. Mara clutched the little girl tight against her chest, her voice breaking. No, 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 it struck. The blast swept across space, tearing through stars and debris, shredding asteroids in its path. A Terran cruiser caught the edge of it. For one brief second it glowed, its hull burning white-hot, then it vanished. Erased so completely that not even wreckage remained. A destroyer tried to veer aside, but the beam swallowed it whole. A second later, there was nothing left, only silence where it had once been. The survivors on the Mercy Dawn wept, their voices echoing down broken halls. Children covered their ears. Nurses screamed in horror. Soldiers slammed their fists against the walls, helpless. On the Iron Will, Admiral Kane gripped the railing. His eyes stayed fixed, unblinking, on the monster they faced. His crew shouted, "Admiral, they'll cut us all down. No shield can stop that. It's hopeless." But Kane's voice cut through the chaos, calm and sharp. "No, nothing is hopeless." He turned to his officers. "Sacrifice wings 2 and 3. Redirect power to forward shields. Buy us time." The officers hesitated, horror on their faces. Sacrifice meant sending entire squadrons into the path of the beam, knowing they would not return. But they obeyed. The orders left the bridge, and in moments, 2 wings of Terran frigates broke formation, diving straight into the beam. The small ships lasted only seconds. Their hulls burned bright, then shattered. But in that brief moment, sacrifice disrupted the beam, weakening its edge, fracturing its focus. The Iron Will shuddered violently as the blast skimmed across its shields. Metal groaned, sparks rained from consoles, crew were thrown to the floor. But it lived. The flagship survived. The alien admiral sneered, his fangs gleaming. "Fools, they cannot resist forever. Fire again." His officers shook. One whispered, "If we keep firing, the reactor will destabilize." The admiral slammed his claw into the console. "Do it." The weapon began to charge again, its glow spreading across the alien flagship like fire crawling up a mountain. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara held the little girl tighter. Round her, nurses whispered prayers. Soldiers gritted their teeth. Voice broke the silence. "If they fire again, it's over." Admiral Kane stood unmoving. His voice was iron. "Not over. Not yet." "So many. Too many," one muttered. Another added, "We are outnumbered at least 10 to 1, Admiral." Kane's scarred face did not change. His voice cut through the panic like steel. "Numbers are not everything. Discipline wins battles, and fury wins wars." His words steadied the bridge. Every officer straightened. Every crew member locked their eyes on him. He was not shouting, not promising impossible things. He was reminding them of who they were. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors pressed against broken glass, watching the nightmare unfold. The alien reinforcements filled the sky with their vast size, blotting out the stars. Nurses cried, children screamed, soldiers clenched their fists. Dr. Mara held on to the little girl, her own hand shaking. "We can't survive this," one soldier whispered bitterly. "There are too many." But Dr. Mara shook her head, her voice steady, though her heart pounded. "We survived the first attack. Earth's fleet came for us. They will not leave us now. They will fight." The alien commander of the new reinforcements stood tall on his flagship bridge. He was larger, older, more cunning than the one who had fallen. His voice was cold and cruel as he addressed his armada. "These humans dare challenge us for one hospital ship. They believe their rage can stand against an empire. Today we crush that arrogance. Today we burn their fleet to ashes." His armada roared in answer, cannons glowing bright. He pointed a claw at the Terran fleet. "Erase them." The first volley lit up the void. Dozens of beams shot across space, streaking toward the humans. Explosions burst around them as energy slammed into Terran shields. A destroyer cracked open, its hull glowing red before breaking apart. A cruiser staggered, fire pouring from its engines. On the Iron Will, alarms screamed. The officers shouted, report shields failing, hull breaches, casualties. But Admiral Kane stood calm, his eyes locked on the battlefield. "Hold formation," he ordered. "Do not scatter. Let them come to us." And they did. The alien fleets surged forward, confident in their numbers, flooding the void with fire. Then Kane raised his hand. His voice was ice. "Return fire." The Terran fleet struck back. Railguns roared, unleashing slugs that tore holes through alien lines. Missiles screamed across the void, targeting clusters of enemy ships. Plasma cannons spat white fire that burned through shields, melting hulls in seconds. One alien cruiser exploded in a blaze so bright it lit the broken hull of the Mercy Dawn. Another carrier lost control and spun wildly before colliding with one of its own escorts. The survivors aboard the hospital ship cheered weakly, their voices echoing through the broken corridors. For a moment, hope flickered again. But the alien numbers were too great. For every ship the humans destroyed, more poured in. For every alien vessel that burned, 5 more took its place. Slowly, the Terran fleet was being pushed back, forced into tighter formation. On the Iron Will, Commander Holt gritted his teeth. "Admiral, we cannot win this by trading fire. No, they will grind us down." Kane's eyes narrowed. He had known this from the start. Humans could not match numbers. They never had. What they matched with was Wieland. Something else. "Prepare the hidden batteries," Kane said softly. His officers froze. "Admiral, those weapons. They were not meant for open war. They are meant for survival," Kane answered. "And survival is what we fight for now." At his command, hatches opened on several Terran warships. From the dark emerged weapons the galaxy had rarely seen: experimental rail cannons, magnetic slings the size of skyscrapers, capable of firing projectiles faster than anything the aliens could track. The barrels glowed red as they charged. The alien armada laughed at first, believing humans desperate. But then the first shot fired. A single slug tore through an alien battleship, entered one side and exited the other, splitting it neatly in half. Another fired, and 2 cruisers shattered instantly. The third shot ripped open a carrier's hangar, detonating its fighter wings inside. Panic spread through the alien fleets. Their shields were useless against this speed, this raw force. Their formation broke as they tried to scatter. "Now," Kane said, his voice sharp, "hit them while they are blind." The Terran fleet surged forward. Fighters screamed out from carriers, darting between alien ships, unleashing swarms of bombs. Destroyers cut through the chaos, firing broadside after broadside. The void became a storm of fire and steel. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors clung to each other as they watched the impossible Earth's fleet pushing back an armada far larger than itself. Children pressed their faces to the glass, whispering they're fighting for us. They're not afraid." But fear still lived in the hearts of the aliens. On their flagship, the alien admiral snarled in rage. These humans, their weapons should not exist. They should not fight like this, his officer whispered in terror. They are not fighting for conquest. They are fighting for vengeance. Alien Admiral's claws shook as another wave of his ships exploded under the human storm. Then we will match their vengeance. Power the doomsday weapon. Gasps filled the alien bridge. The doomsday weapon was forbidden, even among their own kind. A reactor cannon that drew power from the heart of a star. If unleashed, it would not simply destroy. Ships it would annihilate everything in its path, including friend and foe. Admiral did not care. His pride demanded nothing less than total destruction. On the iron will, Admiral Kane's sensors picked up the surge instantly. His face hardened. He knew that kind of power signature. He had studied it years ago in secret. Files marked "Never Engage." His officer whispered, "Pale Admiral. They are charging something monstrous." Kane's voice dropped to a deadly calm. "All ships, prepare for evasive maneuvers. This is no longer a battle, it is survival." The void shook. The alien flagship glowed as energy built in its core. Light spilling from its hull, weapon charged, humming louder, brighter, enough to tear open the fabric of space itself. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara watched in horror. Her arms tightened around the little girl, her voice breaking. "Oh, what is that? What are they doing?" The Admiral's voice reached across the comms, calm but heavy. "They are preparing to erase us all." The survivors froze. Nurses cried. Soldiers looked at each other with pale faces, and then the weapon fired. The alien flagship unleashes its forbidden doomsday weapon, a blast powerful enough to annihilate everything in its path. The Terran fleet has only moments to react. The void itself screamed. The alien flagship's weapon ignited, a beam of pure energy tearing across space like the heart of a dying star. It burned white and red, brighter than suns, ripping the darkness. Apart, its size dwarfed every other cannon, wide enough to consume fleets in a single breath. The Iron Will's alarms howled. On the bridge, Admiral Kane's crew froze in terror. Some whispered prayers. Others simply stared at the screen, pale-faced, watching death itself roar toward them. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors screamed. The beam filled their windows so bright, they shielded their eyes. Dr. Mara clutched the little girl tight against her chest, her voice breaking. No. It struck. The blast swept across space, tearing through stars and debris, shredding asteroids in its path. A Terran cruiser caught the edge of it. For one brief second it glowed, its hull burning white-hot, then it vanished. Erased so completely that not even wreckage remained. A destroyer tried to veer aside, but the beam swallowed it whole. A second later, there was nothing left, only silence where it had once been. The survivors on the Mercy Dawn wept, their voices echoing down broken halls. Children covered their ears. Nurses screamed in horror. Soldiers slammed their fists against the walls, helpless. On the Iron Will, Admiral Kane gripped the railing. His eyes stayed fixed, unblinking, on the monster they faced. His crew shouted, "Admiral, they'll cut us all down. No shield can stop that. It's hopeless." But Kane's voice cut through the chaos, calm and sharp. "No, nothing is hopeless." He turned to his officers. "Sacrifice wings 2 and 3. Redirect power to forward shields. Buy us time." The officers hesitated, horror on their faces. Sacrifice meant sending entire squadrons into the path of the beam, knowing they would not return. But they obeyed. The orders left the bridge, and in moments, 2 wings of Terran frigates broke formation, diving straight into the beam. The small ships lasted only seconds. Their hulls burned bright, then shattered. But in that brief moment, their sacrifice disrupted the beam, weakening its edge, fracturing its focus. The Iron Will shuddered violently as the blast skimmed across its shields. Metal groaned, sparks rained from consoles, crew were thrown to the floor. But it lived. The flagship survived. The alien admiral sneered, his fangs gleaming. "Fools, they cannot resist forever. Fire again." His officers shook. One whispered, "If we keep firing, the reactor will destabilize." The Admiral slammed his claw into the console. "Do it." The weapon began to charge again, its glow spreading across the alien flagship like fire crawling up a mountain. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara held the little girl tighter. Round her, nurses whispered prayers, soldiers gritted their teeth. Voice broke the silence. "If they fire again, it's over." Admiral Kane stood unmoving. His voice was iron. "Not over. Not yet." The void split in half. The Leviathan supercannon fired, unleashing a beam of destruction so bright it lit entire star systems. The blast stretched across the battlefield, burning through asteroids, vaporizing debris, and cutting the void itself in two. It was a weapon designed to end wars in seconds. It's a weapon to erase fleets from history, and it was aimed straight at the Iron Will. On the bridge, alarms screamed. Consoles exploded in sparks. The crew threw themselves to the floor. As the ship shuddered violently, the forward shields burned white-hot, layers peeling away one by one. The hull groaned under the impact. Commander Holt shouted, "Admiral, shields collapsing. We can't hold this." But Kane did not move. His scarred face was lit by the blinding glow. His voice was iron. "We hold until reinforcements strike." The Iron Will groaned, metal screeching, but it stayed intact. And then Earth's reinforcements unleashed their fury. The Eternal Dawn. Earth's legendary supercarrier opened its main batteries. 2 supercannons fired at once, slamming into the Leviathan's flanks with explosions that lit the void brighter. Then suns, dozens of Terran dreadnoughts joined in, railguns thundering, missiles screaming, plasma washing over the alien Titan. The Leviathan staggered. Its beam faltered, bending, breaking apart as its shields overloaded. The monster shuddered, its towers cracking, its hull bursting with fire. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors screamed with joy. Children cried out, "They're winning!" Nurses clutched each other, laughing and weeping. Soldiers, broken and bandaged, raised trembling fists. Dr. Mara whispered, tears streaming down her face, "They came. Earth came." But the Leviathan was not finished. The alien admiral stood, his eyes blazing with fury. "No, I will not fall to them, not to humans." He gave a final order, his voice like a death cry. "Overload the core. If this ship must die, it will take them all with it." His officers froze in horror. "Admiral, if we do that, the explosion will destroy the entire system, our ships, their ships, everything. I do not care." He roared, "Do it." The Leviathan's core began to burn brighter, energy surging through its broken hull. Warning sirens howled across the battlefield. The alien Titan had become a ticking bomb, a sun ready to detonate. On the Iron Will, sensors blared with impossible readings. Commander Holt turned to Kane, his face pale. "Admiral, they're overloading their core. If it goes, it'll wipe us all out." For the first time, the bridge fell silent. The crew looked to their admiral. Fear filled their eyes, but Kane's voice was steady. "Then we end it before it ends us." He opened a channel to the fleet. His words carried across every Terran ship, every fighter, every survivor aboard the Mercy Dawn. His voice was low, calm, heavy with the weight of history. "Humans of the fleet, you know what they've done? You saw them fire on the helpless. You saw them burn a hospital ship. You saw them slaughter children, and now they would take us all with them. That ends today. This monster dies here with the Mercy Dawn. For Earth, for every child who cried in the dark, we burn them down." Fleet roared in answer. Every voice, every weapon, every soul. The Eternal Dawn charged its supercannons again. The Iron Will brought its rail batteries online, coils glowing with heat, every dreadnought locked on. Every cruiser and destroyer angled forward. Fighters swarmed like angry bees, diving toward the Leviathan's wounds. "Fire," Kane commanded. The Terran fleet unleashed everything. Rail slugs punched deep into the Leviathan's core. Missiles tore into its spine, detonating one after another. Plasma fire burned its towers to ash. Eternal Dawn's cannons roared, tearing open its belly. The Leviathan screamed, its hull splitting apart in massive bursts. Inside, The alien admiral fell to his knees as fire engulfed his bridge. His last words were filled with bitter rage, not to humans. Then the Leviathan exploded. The detonation was not a single blast. It was a chain reaction, wave after wave, tearing through the massive ship, the void filled with light. So bright it blinded sensors. As the shockwaves slammed across the battlefield, throwing ships aside like toys, the iron will shook violently, its hull groaning, but it held. The eternal dawn braced, shields straining, but it survived. One by one, Earth's ships endured the storm. The Leviathan was gone. Only wreckage remained. Drifting silently in the void, on the Mercy Dawn, survivors wept. Some fell to the floor in prayer. Others hugged, sobbing with relief. Children clapped, their voices echoing with laughter. Dr. Mara held the little girl tight, whispering, "It's over. You're safe now. It's over." On the iron will, the bridge sat in silence, broken only by the crackle of damaged systems. Crew members leaned. On their consoles, exhausted, some crying quietly, Commander Holt whispered, "We actually did it. Killed their monster." Admiral Kane stood at the center, silent, his eyes still locked on the burning wreckage. His face was grim, not victorious. "Signal Earth Command," he said finally. "Tell them the Leviathan is destroyed. The Mercy Dawn is safe." The message was sent, but Kane knew it was not the end. Because even as the fleet cheered, even as survivors clung to hope, whispers spread across the galaxy. News would travel fast that Earth had destroyed the Leviathan, the pride of the Empire, in open battle. That humans had unleashed weapons never seen before. That they had stood against impossible numbers, and one fear would spread, respect would spread, and so would hate. Dr. Mara, standing at a cracked window, looked at the stars, her voice soft. "You'll never forget this day. None of them. Not the aliens. Not us. The galaxy has seen Earth's fury now." Admiral Kane closed his eyes for one moment, listening to the silence after the storm. Then he opened them again, and they burned with steel. "Then let the galaxy remember this," he said. "If you fire on the helpless, if you strike at the innocent, Earth will answer, and our answer will be fire." The survivors on the Mercy Dawn erupted in cheers. The fleet roared in triumph. Across the stars, the legend began to spread. The lesson was written not in words, but in fire. And far away, in the dark reaches of the galaxy, another empire watched in silence. Their leaders whispered to one another, afraid to speak too loud. If humans can destroy the Leviathan, what else are they hiding? The alien empire's pride is broken, their Leviathan destroyed. Humanity's message is clear: hospital. Ships and the helpless are untouchable. The galaxy now fears Earth's fury. He turned to Commander Holt. "Bring the Iron Will's main rail batteries online. Full charge." Holt's eyes widened. "Admiral, a full charge will overload our own systems, could cripple the ship." Kane did not flinch. "Better we cripple ourselves than let them erase us all." "Do it." The crew obeyed. Deep inside the Iron Will, massive rail cannons came alive. Their barrels glowed red, the magnetic coils howling as they drew power from the ship's core. The deck shook under the force. Even the stars seemed to tremble at the energy building. Inside, at the same time, the rest of the Terran fleet shifted position. Destroyers formed a defensive wall around the Mercy Dawn. Carriers launched their last reserves of drones, sending them swarming toward the alien reinforcements. Cruisers prepared secondary plasma batteries, glowing like white suns. The alien weapon reached full charge. Its glow blazed brighter than before, threatening to blind sensors. The alien admiral spread his arms. "Now raise them." Admiral Kane spoke at that same instant. His voice thundered across the fleet. "For the Mercy Dawn, fire." Iron Will unleashed its full charge. A rail slug the size of a building roared out of its cannon at a speed no eye could follow. It tore through the void faster than the alien sensors could track, faster than the enemy weapon could fire. It slammed into the alien flagship with the force of a falling moon. The entire ship shuddered, cracked, then exploded in a chain of detonations. The doomsday weapon fired, but too late. The blast veered off course, shattering harmlessly into space, carving only empty darkness. The alien flagship was gone. The survivors aboard the Mercy Dawn erupted in cheers and sobs. Children screamed with joy. Nurses fell to their knees, crying. In relief, soldiers raised their fists, shouting, "Earth, Earth, Earth." But Admiral Kane's face did not soften. He looked at the tactical display, and his jaw tightened.
Ow!
The destruction of the flagship had bought them time, but not safety. Hundreds of alien ships still filled the system. On the alien reinforcements bridge, their new commander rose, his face pale with fury. He had seen their ultimate weapon destroyed, their mighty flagship torn apart by human fire. But his pride refused surrender. "Crush them," he roared. "Send every ship. Cannot stop us all." The alien armada surged forward like a flood. On the Iron Will, Commander Holt shouted, "Admiral, we can't fight them all head-on. Even with the flagship destroyed, their numbers are too great." Kane's eyes narrowed. His voice was cold. "Then we stop fighting their way. We fight our way." He turned to his tactical officer. "Okay, prepare the EMP warheads." "Every single one." The officer gasped. "Admiral, those are experimental." "We don't even know if prepare them," Kane repeated. His voice left no room for doubt. On the Mercy Dawn, Dr. Mara stared at the battlefield, her heart pounding. The Terran fleet looked small against the tide of alien ships, yet she felt no despair. She had seen Earth's answer once before, when the Iron Will's cannon tore through the impossible. She whispered, "They will find a way. They always do." Deep in the Iron Will, hidden launch bays opened. Massive missiles slid into place, their tips glowing with unstable energy. They were weapons of last resort, forbidden for use near civilians, but Earth was done playing by anyone's rules. The alien fleet surged closer, their weapons lighting the void. The Iron Will's crew braced, their hands tight on controls, their eyes burning with fury. Admiral Kane gave the order. Launch. The missiles roared out, streaking into the heart of the alien armada. For a moment, the void seemed to freeze. Then the warheads detonated. Light swallowed the battlefield. Energy waves rolled across space, invisible but unstoppable. Alien ships flickered, their lights dying. Weapons shut down, engines went dark, shields collapsed. Hundreds of warships froze in place, powerless, drifting helplessly in the void. The survivors on the Mercy Dawn gasped in disbelief. "They did it," Dr. Mara whispered. "They actually did it." Admiral Kane's voice was cold as the void itself. "Now erase them all." The Terran fleet surged forward, guns blazing, moving to finish what had been started. But as they did, new warnings screamed across the Iron Will's bridge. "Admiral, another signal. Something massive is entering the system." Kane turned slowly, his eyes narrowing at the display. This time, it was not dozens of ships. It was not even hundreds. It was one shape, enormous, ancient. Bigger than anything humanity had faced before, as Earth's fleet cripples the alien armada with EMP warheads. A colossal new alien supership arrives larger than any dreadnought, carrying power beyond imagination. The battlefield was silent for a moment, broken only by the drifting wreckage of hundreds of dead alien ships. Human railguns still glowed from their last barrage. The EMP warheads had done their work. Most of the alien fleet was dead in space, powerless, floating like corpses in the void. On the Mercy Dawn, survivors stared out of shattered windows, speechless, the first time since the nightmare began. It looked as if the humans might actually win. A nurse whispered, "We're saved." A soldier, his body bandaged and broken, whispered back, "Not yet." He was right, because the void itself trembled. Alarms screamed on the Iron Will. The tactical screen lit up with something new, something enormous, something ancient. Out of the warp tore a single vessel, bigger than any dreadnought the humans had ever seen. It was not sleek or sharp like most warships. It was a mountain of black metal, bristling with towers and weapons that glowed with alien energy. Its presence blocked out stars. It was not a ship. It was an empire carved into steel. Alien survivors aboard their crippled vessels roared in relief. There comes flooded with cheers. The Leviathan has come, the flagship of the Empire. We are saved. Even the Terran fleet, hardened veterans of war, felt their hearts sink. The Iron Will's crew stared at the screen, silent. Commander Holt whispered, "By God, it's the size of a moon." The massive ship moved slowly, but every motion shook the void. It powered its systems, and waves of energy pulsed across the battlefield, restoring some of the disabled alien ships. Weapons began to glow again, shields reforming, engines reigniting. The tide once broken rose again. Admiral Kane stood still, his hands gripping the railing. His eyes were locked on the colossal ship. Its voice was steady but grim. "So, they've brought their monster." The Leviathan opened a channel. The alien admiral's voice, deep and cruel, boomed across every ship in the system. "Humans, you should have hidden in your weak world. You should never have answered the stars. You dare strike our fleets. You dare destroy our commanders. Then face the full might of the Empire. We will erase you, and your home will burn until its oceans. Boil." His words spread fear, but Kane did not flinch. He opened his own channel, his scarred face filling every Terran screen, and even the Mercy Dawn's battered coms. His voice was calm, cold, merciless. "You fired on a hospital ship. You slaughtered children, and now you think we will kneel. No, humanity does not kneel. Not to monsters, not to cowards, not to empires. You call that thing your Leviathan? Then hear me well. Earth has slain monsters before." The survivors on the Mercy Dawn erupted in cheers. Even broken soldiers shouted, their voices hoarse but fierce. "Earth! Earth!" The Leviathan began to move, its weapons powered up, towers glowing with energy, massive cannons swiveling. Into place. One shot from its forward guns could end a city. A single strike could tear apart even the Iron Will. On the Terran flagship, Kane barked orders. "All ships, Titan formation. Protect the Mercy Dawn at all costs. Dreadnought wing, prepare heavy strike. Carriers, launch everything we have left." The fleet obeyed instantly. Destroyers formed shields around the hospital ship. Carriers unleashed the last of their fighter wings, hundreds of small craft screaming out into the void. Dreadnoughts shifted position, massive cannons glowing brighter, ready for the fight. Of their lives, the Leviathan fired. The first blast was not a beam, but a storm. Dozens of energy cannons unleashed at once, flooding the void with light. A Terran destroyer vanished in fire. Carrier buckled, its decks torn apart, spilling fighters into space. Cruisers staggered, shields collapsing, hull splitting. But the humans struck back. Railguns roared, plasma cannons spat fire. Missiles swarmed like angry hornets. Fighters darted between the Leviathan's towers, dropping bombs, planting charges, cutting down smaller escorts. The void became a storm of chaos. On the Mercy Dawn, the survivors shook as shockwaves rattled their broken ship. Children screamed. Nurses prayed. Doctors shouted orders to keep patients calm. Dr. Mara held the little girl against her chest, her eyes never leaving the burning stars outside. She whispered, "They're fighting for us." For us, the Leviathan's shields flared under the storm of Terran fire. For a moment, it seemed possible. For a moment, the monster shook, but then it answered. Its central cannon, a massive barrel, stretching the length of a city, glowed with light. Energy built, brighter and brighter, until even the stars seemed to dim. On the Iron Will, alarms wailed. The crew froze as the sensors screamed warnings. Commander Holt shouted, "Admiral, if that cannon fires," Kane's voice cut him off, calm as always, "then we will stop it before it does."